Companies that offer larger financial bonuses to creative workers often get worse creative performance. Paying children to read can destroy their intrinsic love of books. This counterintuitive phenomenon, that extrinsic rewards can undermine intrinsic motivation, is called the overjustification effect, and it is one of the most practically important findings in motivational psychology. Understanding why this happens requires understanding what motivation actually is. Clark Hull's drive reduction theory proposes that biological deprivation states, hunger, thirst, pain, temperature imbalance, create internal drives that motivate behavior aimed at reducing the drive and restoring homeostasis. When you are hungry, the drive energizes food-seeking behavior. When you eat, the drive is reduced and motivation decreases. The theory captures real biological motivations, but fails for two important classes of behavior: motivated behaviors that increase rather than decrease arousal, like curiosity and exploration, and extrinsic motivations that are not connected to biological deficits. Incentive theory complements drive reduction by recognizing that motivation is not only pushed by internal drives, but also pulled by external incentives, rewards, and attractive goals in the environment. A person who is not hungry can be motivated to eat by the sight of an appetizing dessert. A financially comfortable person can be motivated by an exciting career opportunity. Incentives work through learned associations and can activate motivational states even in the absence of biological deprivation. Dopamine plays a central role in both the wanting activated by incentives and the pleasure of obtaining them. The Yerkes-Dodson law describes an inverted U relationship between arousal and performance. Too little arousal produces lethargy and poor performance. Too much produces anxiety and disruption, and intermediate levels produce optimal performance. The peak of the curve shifts depending on task complexity. Simple, well-practiced tasks are performed best at higher arousal levels, while complex, novel, or cognitively demanding tasks require lower arousal for optimal performance. This explains why caffeine helps with routine tasks and hurts with creative problem-solving, and why athletes perform best at an activated but controlled level of physiological arousal. Edward Deci and Richard Ryan's self-determination theory proposes that all humans have three fundamental psychological needs whose satisfaction is essential for well-being, motivation, and healthy psychological development. Autonomy is the need to feel that one's actions are self-initiated and volitional, that you are acting from choice rather than coercion. Competence is the need to feel effective and capable of mastering challenges. Relatedness is the need for meaningful social connection and belonging. When these needs are satisfied, people experience intrinsic motivation, well-being, and growth. When they are frustrated, motivation becomes controlled, external, or absent. Intrinsic motivation is the drive to engage in an activity because the activity itself is interesting, enjoyable, and inherently satisfying, not because of external rewards or punishments. People who are intrinsically motivated exhibit greater creativity, deeper learning, higher persistence in the face of difficulty, and greater well-being than those who perform the same activities under extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is associated with autonomy-satisfying conditions. When people feel they have chosen their activities, they engage more deeply and creatively. The overjustification effect occurs when providing extrinsic rewards for an activity that was previously intrinsically motivated causes people to attribute their behavior to the external reward rather than to their own interest, reducing subsequent intrinsic motivation. In Lepper, Green, and Nisbet's classic study, children who loved drawing and were rewarded for it showed less subsequent free play drawing than those who were not rewarded. The reward provided an external justification that overdetermined the behavior, hence overjustification, leading the children to conclude they must be drawing for the reward, not for the love of drawing. Extrinsic rewards do not always undermine motivation. They reliably do so only under specific conditions. For tasks that are already intrinsically interesting, unexpected rewards or verbal praise tend to enhance rather than undermine intrinsic motivation by providing positive information about competence rather than controlling the behavior. For uninteresting, routine, rote tasks that no one would do voluntarily, external rewards are appropriate and do not undermine motivation because there was no intrinsic motivation to undermine. The key distinction is whether the reward is experienced as controlling or informational. Research on self-determination theory in educational and organizational contexts consistently shows that autonomy-supportive environments, where choices are offered, rationales for tasks are provided, and controlling language is avoided, produce better motivation, deeper learning, higher creativity, and greater well-being than controlling environments. Autonomy support does not mean no structure. Providing clear structure and expectations while also offering choice within that structure produces the best outcomes. Teachers and managers who support autonomy have students and employees who are more engaged, more creative, and more satisfied. Motivation is not a single force, but a complex system of biological drives, learned incentives, and psychological needs. The most important practical message from decades of motivation research is simple but routinely violated. External rewards should be used cautiously with activities that people already enjoy, and the single most powerful way to sustain motivation is to support autonomy, competence, and connection.